am testing the microphone. It looks like we are live. And I've got a sound meter. Okay, let's see who we have out there. Hey, Mary, and I see Robin out there already. So we're going to go ahead and get started because it is 6 o'clock on a Sunday, and it is November the 16th, and we are working on Krabby Patty. Your handout should say 8, but it's actually episode 7 because there's, I don't know why they got misnumbered somewhere. But anyway, let me just show you where we are and what you're going to need for today. So Krabby Patty started when we built this big middle. And so if you have not started this project, it is not too late for you to get out there and do it. You still can. But I have this right here. And these are some of the pieces that I've still yet to use in my quilt. So I started by building the middle. Then we did the wandering geese border and we put that together. Then I did all of the animals across the top. And now I'm going to start working on my animals that are going on the side. Now, if you notice, there's pairs of my sea creatures because I need to make 2. So there's my second whale. I just haven't attached him yet. And then we also made the little clamshells for the corners. And when I sew this on here, there's going to be a pearl or a circle in the middle. So that'll be the last thing that I do. But today, we're going to be working on Oscar the Orca. And let me show you what you need so that we can continue with the right side panel, this side that goes down to the bottom. All right, so let me go ahead and get started. All right, tell us where you're from. If you have any questions, just go ahead and put those in the chat and I will try to stop and answer your questions. Today, you're going to watch me free motion applique Oscar because he's at the top of the banner. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. All right, so let me go ahead and show you what I've got here. First, if you did not download the handout, let me move my camera out of the way. Let me show you what you need. So I'm going to open the website, which is www.jellyrollclub.com. It looks like this. So you're going to go under Krabby Patty. You're going to scroll down. We have month 1 was Krabby Patty. Month 2 was building that center. Month 3 was the turtle. 4 was the fish. I actually did 2 fish. That's how I think they got misnumbered. 5 was the jellyfish. Wally the whale was number 6. And now we're on to the grumpy orca. And if you click on that handout, you're going to get to this. I have this flipped over. So this is the reverse of the orca. So it's going left and it's going right because you're going to need 2 of those. And so just let me show you what I've got. All right. So one of the ways that I save paper and ink on my computer is by only printing 1 instead of 2. And then what I did is I just took a Sharpie marker. I laid my Pelon 805 right on top. I traced this little guy. And then I took my Sharpie marker and I traced all the way around. And now I can see it on the back side. And so now I have a reverse image without having to make 2 copies. So if you have an applique and you have it one direction or even a coloring sheet from somewhere, you can always just draw it with a Sharpie. It immediately reverses it for you on the other side, and you have a free mirror image. You're only using 1 piece of paper, and you're not wasting ink, which I don't like to do. All right, so now that I have traced Oscar, and I've traced him both left and right, and I've made this little segment of his belly. Let me show you the fabric that I'm going to use. So I'm just using 100% Kona black. I had a scrap in my sewing room. As you can see, it was just raggedy and left over. And then I'm just going to press all of this fusible on the wrong side. So I'm going to take a pressing cloth, super handy pressing cloth, and I'm going to put that on the back. So if you have solid fabric, you can look at it carefully. And if there's a smoother texture and then a rougher texture, the rougher texture is usually the back side. So I'm going to press it to the wrong side of my fabric. And this is just a ravelly old scrap that's been washed. I'm going to make sure that I give it a hard press. Let me flip my iron so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. Can you guys see that better? I don't know why I was off camera there for a second. And so you're just going to give it a good hard press. Make sure you don't have any creases. If your fabric is too linty, go ahead and remove the lint because that'll prevent the stuff from sticking to it. But this is just Kona Black. And the thing about Kona Black, do you see those little edges? It tends to ravel. So I'm going to have to really watch my stitching. I think on this one I may have to do a blanket stitch. All right, so Oscar the Orca, when I did him, I did this little, just so you guys can see, when I drew him, I did him like his fin was at an angle, but I'm not sure that I love that. So I'm thinking that I'm going to chop this off because it almost ends up looking like a horn. So I think even though I drew that little fin on there, I think I'm going to take it off. So it's okay to edit your stuff after you start. And I don't like how that looks, so I'm going to remove that. But I'm going to still go ahead and press it down. I'm going to press as close to the edge as possible. Maybe I have to flip it this way to get it to fit. And that looks pretty good. Trying not to get glue on my little ironing mat. I've had this ironing mat probably for as long as I've been quilting. It's super old. But this one says 15 seconds, so you're just going to want to leave the iron on there for 15 seconds and then move on. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the other one, which is mirror imaged. And on this one, I went ahead and removed the fin because I didn't like him. I did not like that little fin on there. I'm going to leave it like this because that leaves me a nice big empty space that I can use for something else, like eyes on the rest of these or even smiley faces. But I'm just going to go ahead and give it a press. And this is, like I said, 15 seconds. I'm going to rough cut around these guys. And whenever I make an applique that uses duplicates, I tend to go ahead and make both of them at one time and just set them aside until I need them. So I'm just going to trim around. Yes, let me see. What are the questions? I do use Pellon 805 on all of these sea creatures because I'm doing raw edge applique. Now, these could be done needle turn. They don't have a lot of tight pieces, so this would be a good project to do needle turn, especially because it has some very kind of smooth edges. But yeah, I just used Pellon 805 on all of these guys. And anytime I have little bits like this, I'm just going to throw that away. It's a little bit too small. But some of these might be good for eyeballs, for the blacks of the eyes. So I'm going to save a few of these pieces. Let's not be wasteful. All right. So Oscar is the only one of the animals that I'm doing in this series that looks grumpy. All the other animals look happy. So that's why I called him Oscar. Who remembers Sesame Street? Good old Oscar the Grouch. So he's Oscar the Grouchy Orca. All right, now that I have him cut out, I'm going to use my nicer applique scissors for this. And I'm going to go ahead and take him along the drawn line. And I'm going to just trim as tight as I can. Now, because I'm using Kona, and Kona tends to be really ravelly, I might have to do a blanket stitch around him with black thread. So I haven't decided yet, but I might end up doing a blanket stitch. If I do a blanket stitch around him, then I'm probably going to have to do a blanket stitch around everybody else. We'll see. I might even do a little skinny zigzag. All right. Oscar, I'm going to remove that little extra fin. Sorry, friend, you're just going to have one fin. This is the lower fin. I'm going to make it a tiny bit bigger. And then I'm going to put his bottom of his belly will get layered underneath this. So anytime that you're doing applique, you need to cut your pieces with a tiny bit of overlap. And that's just to keep as many edges as possible from fraying on you. All right, so I'm going to move that out of the way. I have Oscar left, Oscar right. Let me look at this one here. So that's right. Even though that looks to the left, it's actually right facing because it's going to end up the opposite of what you think it's going to end up. And then I'm just going to cut the other one. How many of you guys have already started this applique? Or are you just watching to see if you want to do this one? Some people like to wait until the project is over and then they decide, this is cute, I want to do it. Other people jump in feet first like me and they just start working and they sew along with me. But either way, the quilt police are not in your sewing room. You could work at whatever pace you want. All right, so this is almost done. Anytime I'm using a quilting cotton, I try to take smooth cuts and not leave raggedy edges anywhere. And so I'm just going to go like this and make that top fin. Okay, so I have a left and I have a right. So now we're ready. I think I like that other fin removed. What do you guys think? If I used fray check on the edges, would I still do a straight stitch? Yes, sometimes I have taken a Q-tip and just gone along the edge of my applique if I didn't want it to fray. So I have done that, and I may do that on this particular one because he's not a batik. All the other ones are batiks. I have a couple of eyeballs I need, so I'm going to be doing that. And let me just turn my light because it's shining so brightly on my camera that it's making it hard for you guys to see everything. I think that's a little bit better now. Sometimes in the wintertime, it's hard to gauge how much light I need. There we go. So there are my two eyeballs. I need to put that on white. And I also have like some leftover bits from the other pieces. So if you notice, I have some eyeballs in here already. And I'm just going to throw that in there. So I might pull these eyes out. All right. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing free motion in black around the edges. And so one of the things that when I do free motion applique is I use a bobbin washer. And so I'm just going to pull one of these out. And these are made of Teflon and they're very, very slippery. And the reason I want that in there is because you, first of all, you need to clean out your bobbin case. If there's any lint in there, you gotta get in there and clean it out. And see, there's a little spring that's in there. That little spring can prevent this from moving smoothly when you change directions when you free motion applique. And so I have this little washer and it has like a concave and a convex. And so I just make sure that the convex side is to the top and that I can put my bobbin in there. And then what that does is it keeps that bobbin from getting hung up in that spring. And so it's ready to go. And so this is gonna be ready to go. So now I'm gonna take my bottom and I have to decide, do I want gray? So do I want a gray bottom? I'm thinking that. Or do I want a little bit of like cream ivory underneath him? So I haven't decided. I think this cream ivory is gonna be really popping. So I think this is what I'm gonna do for that other section. All right, let me move these little guys over. And I'm going to have to do his belly. So I need his little belly pieces. And so let me go ahead and finish that part. All right. I think, what do you guys think? White or gray for the belly pieces? All right, that leaves the dots to the wrong side, so I'm going to put these belly pieces right there. All right. Sorry for that loud noise, friends. If you have a Teflon pressing sheet, use that. That way you don't get glue on your good surfaces, your ironing board. Nobody wants that on their ironing board. All right. If you're making the belly piece, you can use a leftover jelly roll strip for that. See these dashed lines that I did? That's the overlap. I don't know if you can see that here. Let me reduce the exposure. There it is. See these little dashed lines? Those little dashed lines are the overlap that it has under the belly of the whale. And so I'm going to go ahead and trim, and that's a little underbelly. And that's the other piece that goes underneath his fin. And again, if I'm going to leave a big piece, it's going to be towards this piece that's going to tuck under. So I'm just going to trim it at an angle, and this is ready to go. And so I need to see, is this one for the left or for the right? This one looks like it's the belly piece for this guy. Nope, the opposite. And he fits just like that. And then this little piece fits right underneath his fin and his tail, just like that. And so you need those little two pieces, and then his little eyeball. I gave him a nice big scary eye. The bigger the eye, the more kind of shocked your little animal looks. So if you want him to look kind of beady-eyed, you can give him a big eyeball. So I'm going to put a, ooh, maybe that eye's a little too big. I don't know, what do you guys think? I'm probably going to do, I think you guys are right, I'm going to do one gray and one white, because I don't know that they're bright white in real life. They look kind of whitish, but I'm not sure. Okay, so that eye was way too big. He looked really scary. But I wanted his eye to be a little bit bigger. Maybe that's too big. All right, gonna take down that eye even more. It's better to make it big and then try to shrink it down than to shrink it down. Try to make it bigger. Okay, so I think this is a good size eye. And I'm gonna go ahead and draw in there with a little fabric marker. I'm going to draw, but I'm going to come back and I'm actually going to sew in the eyeball. And so I'm going to go ahead and just mark where I want that. And then I'll come back and actually stitch it in there. So he's looking kind of scared, and I'm okay with that. And then I will grab, this is the top piece. Let me show you where this fits. So if you look at my quilt, this is going to fit right in here. And so I'm going to start sewing this orca about 2 inches down. That means I need 2.5 just to give me some wiggle room. And I'm going to put my other pieces going down this side. So I'm going to start sewing Oscar at the very top, and he's going to go facing to the left. And on the other side, he's going to go facing the other direction. All right, so let's get him on there. I'm going to go ahead and measure from the top. I can just eyeball it, but I know that he's going to be about that far away from the top. I'm just going to give myself a couple of little tiny marks. This is a pencil that erases. It's a water-soluble marking pencil. And it'll erase. And so I'm going to go ahead and put him down here. And then I'm going to free motion applique him. Because I have all of this extra fabric, and see how long it is, I'm just going to roll this like this and make like a little, roll it up like this with my hands. And I'm going to clip it so that I can sew with it and not have to have a bunch of seams, because what I'm trying to avoid are as many seams as possible. So I'm just going to do this here, and I'm going to put a couple of pins. Now, I don't want these to scratch the bed of my machine, so I'm just going to pin it through the top layers, but not the bottom layers. And so I'm just going to pin through the top layers. Go ahead and push that in. Don't hurt yourself. because I might hurt myself. I do sometimes. And I'm just going to leave that there. And what I'm trying to do is just pin them all together without scratching up the bed of my machine. That's never fun. Okay, so there's no pins down here, and I'm ready to go. So now I'm going to take this whale, and I'm going to put him right where I want him. I'm going to pull this off. You can see the Pelon 805 because it's glossy. So it's stuck nice and well on there. I'm going to make sure that I leave, if you notice, I'm going to leave at least 2.5 inches from the top. So I'm going to measure that. Better safe than sorry. I'm going to lay there. I can see my little marks, but I just want to line him up nicely. And then I'm just going to center him like this. And I'm going to give him, I'm not going to sew his eyeball on there yet. I'm going to do that later. But I'm going to go ahead and peel these off. If you have a pin, it works better than anything else because it scores that paper without removing the glue. Then you're going to put that right under his fin. You're going to press him as a unit. And that just kind of gives him that little mouth, that pouty mouth he has. Yeah, I haven't decided. That's why I'm going to wait on the eye. That eye makes him look sad. The other eye might make him look, I don't know, kind of scary. I thought about testing out different size eyes. I have those little wiggly eyes in my sewing room. And sometimes I just test out different size eyeballs on my appliques to see how big do I really want them. So sometimes, see that eye? I don't know. That one might be a good size. I think this one's all right. He's looking a little sad for sure. A little cranky, I don't know. We'll see. That eyeball will have to wait. That's a think about it kind of a situation there with the eye. All right. And it looks like while I was moving about doing my things, I dropped the little bottom piece. Don't we all lose things in our sewing room? I always do. And then I find them later. So lovely. All right. Hang on. Did I put it underneath? Did he come flying off? You know what? I'm not too worried about it because I have 2 more pieces and we're just going to cut a piece to go under there. So I'm going to put a piece underneath his little belly and it'll be fine. All right. Never panic. All right, so you've got a little bit of white that I'm going to stick underneath his little belly there. There it goes. And it's going to slide up under his tummy just like that. So if you guys can see that, now I'm ready to give him a press. I'm going to put that pressing cloth on top, and then I'm going to press the entire thing. And lift your iron as you do this because you never want that glue to come oozing out. What can you do if you don't have water-looking fabric? Well, one of the things that you can do is if you can get a little bit of fabric dye, you can always use fabric dye to paint your fabric to make it look like water. You can use ink, like alcohol-based inks, If you have ink, you can always make your own fabric. All right, so there we have him. He's ready to go. I'm going to give him a second to cool down, and he looks like he's stuck on there really well. So I'm ready to come over and give this new bobbin a spin. Okay, so let me switch over to my sewing machine. You guys should be able to see everything. All right, so let's see what we've got here. So on my sewing machine, I have dropped the feed dogs. So that's feed dogs up, that's feed dogs down. I have cleaned all the lint out of my machine. I have a brand new needle. This is a very sharp, if you want to know what it is, I'm using an 8012 Schmetz Microtex. Those are extra sharp, but they're not gigantically big. I don't want a top stitch needle per se. All right, so I'm going to pull about 6 inches out of bobbin. And that bobbin washer is allowing it to spin freely, so that's very nice. Make sure that clicks all the way in. Close all the hatches. This is threaded, so now I'm going to pull the thread, and I'm going to start somewhere where I think it's inconspicuous to end. So I think because this is a good corner to turn, I'm going to start right here at this fin and work my way around. And so I'm using a stitch length that's 2.0, but it doesn't even matter because the stitch length will be regulated by how quickly I move my fabric. I'm going to work with my needle down. I'm going to hold this thread in my fingers, and then I'm going to pull the other thread. Make sure your presser foot is down. I'm going to pull it up, and you can see it it came through the hole. So I'm going to take my scissor or a tweezer and pull it out. So I'm just going to pull it away. There we go. And I'm going to pull both of those through the bottom and on my hand. And so you just want to carefully move them out of your way. So I'm going to pull both of these in one hand. So I'm going to just grab, pull them through the same hole. There we go. Now that I have them both up and through the same hole, I'm going to hold them with one finger. I need about 6 inches. So this is why sometimes I need my tweezers or an awl, and I just need to move them up out of the way. There we go. So now that I have them both coming through that little hole, right? See it? The bobbin thread is up. My top thread is up. Do you see both of my threads? I'm going to slide this over, back right over that little hole where I started. And I'm going to drop my presser foot and drop my needle. And then making sure that my needle is in the down position, I'm going to spin both of these in my finger like this to just kind of hold them. And I'm going to carefully just kind of stitch 1 or 2 stitches in place and then just move it ever so slightly, and then I can come and snip those off and get them out of my way. So now I have a guide on my presser foot right here, and I'm going to use my hands like this to kind of guide me as I guide that along. Just like that. You want to do slow and steady. You want to come into your corner, lift your presser foot and spin it around. And this is why I pin all of this excess. And I want to work always sewing towards me. Now you see this little bitty bit of thread that's sticking up? I'm going to snip it off. And it doesn't come out because I've taken 2 or 3 anchoring stitches right there. And now I'm going to come towards me along that edge, and I'm going to use my hands to drive the fabric. Just like this. I'm sewing about a 1/16 of an inch away from that edge. And I'm going to pause and adjust as needed. Don't go fast and don't sew sideways is my biggest hint. The less you can sew sideways, the more you can sew towards you, the easier you're going to have control, and the more even those stitches are going to be. And when you first start free motion appliquing, use thread that matches your applique. It'll hide your sins and you won't feel so bad about yourself. All right. So let's come this way. I'm going to flip it around, making sure I spin with my fingers like this. And then I can speed up a little bit. If you find your needle ever getting gummy, stop and rub with a cotton ball a tiny bit of, I use this Zoom oil. Just rub it right on your needle, just a tiny bit, not enough to leave spots on your fabric, and that solves the problem. Also, if you find that you're getting a gummy buildup on your needle, then you can always steam your applique ever so slightly, and what that will do, spritz it with a little bit of water on the back side and press it hard from the back, and what that'll do is that'll release some of that adhesive so that it's not so gummy. Do not put rubbing alcohol on your needle. Some people will say that, but don't do that because that can release the dyes in your fabric, and then you're going to end up with a little applique piece that might be stained or discolored, so don't do that. All right, I'm almost to his back side. And then when I get here to the end where I started, I'm just going to go back and forth a couple of times before I break my needle. And my little orca, see how smooth he is? There's no puckers. If you look on the back side, lift that up, you can see there's also no bird's nests and no puckers. He's just as smooth as can be, and there's no fusible interfacing. There's nothing. You can applique on shirts, on jackets, on towels using this method. Just make sure that your piece that you're appliquing on is lightly starched and that you're using some fusible web, and then you're going to end up with a nice smooth applique. All right, so that's it, friends. Look at how easy that was. Oscar is ready for his eyeball. I'm going to take these pins off the sides because that's what we're doing. I'm going to make one more Oscar, the orca, and I'm going to get him ready. I'm going to put his eyeball on him, and I'm glad I removed that secondary fin. I don't think it looks that great, but this, my friends, is ready now for the next animal. So I'm probably going to do a fish on this one. So when I get him ready to hang up over here, let me show you where he's going to go. He's going to go on this side. And I'm probably going to use one of these fish. If you notice, I have one of these leftover blocks. That's going to be my quilt label. So I'm going to use this, and this is going to be my quilt label. It's going to have information about this quilt, when I made it. But I think that this, friends, is going to be really, really cute. This is going to be in this section of my quilt. I'm going to add a pin, and then I think I'm going to come back and add one of these little fish like this on this side. So that's it, friends. I need to make fins for Finley the fish. That's going to go down here, and then I'm going to have a few more sea creatures. And then I like how this is turning out. I think this is going to be one of my favorite quilts. I'm going to try to finish it in time for Christmas for my grandson who loves sea creatures. All right, friends, that's it. Give it a thumbs up if you like this video. Share this with your friends. If you just got started, it's okay. If you're behind, don't worry about it. It doesn't actually take that long. I just have one project that I work on throughout the year, and then so I just, by the end of the year, I have one project that I have finished. So I try to keep one going. For those that are new to the channel, I don't know if you saw, but we have an upcoming project, and so I'm going to go ahead and share that on my desktop. You see where we're going to go with that. Let me show you my desktop. And if you go to Facebook, I've already, here, let me find this one. Let me open the other tab. Here we go. Let me go to my downloads. Here it is. It looks just like this. I'm going to click it over so you guys can see it. For those of you who did not see that on my page, we are going to be working on this right here. Can you guys see that? So that is my next project. It's going to start in January. It will probably finish by the time warm weather gets here. And then we're going to do a warm weather quilt that is Friends and Flowers. And then we're going to do a fall quilt that's Friends and Flowers. And so next year is the year of Friends and Flowers. And so that's what I'm going to be working on. If you did not answer the survey on Facebook, please do. Otherwise, have a wonderful rest of your week. I appreciate you, and I will see you guys next Sunday. Bye, everybody. Have a great work week. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that.